Hello, this is for Steve Hackett. It's all right, you're not talking to me. I'm Joe's wife.
Hey, how are you,
I've
Joe?
just set it up. Okay, thanks. How are you, Megan?
I'm good. Thanks so much for setting this up with
Excellent,
me. I
fantastic.
appreciate it.
He's
Okay.
just coming now,
Yeah.
so we will swap
Yeah. We go.
places.
All
There we
right.
go.
Well, okay. Okay.
No
Here we
problem.
are. Hi
Hey,
there. Hi,
Steve,
Megan.
how
How are
are
you?
you? I'm
Yeah,
doing
very good.
great. How are
Good.
you doing?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Lovely to talk.
Lovely
Very
to
good.
talk with you
Oh,
too. Thanks for fitting
good.
me in before tour. I know you're about to head out on this big
Yeah, well,
tour.
yeah, in no time we're out there again. So nice to talk. We're just in Montreal now. So, and then we'll be touring for a couple of months once again. Look forward to it.
We're
Yeah.
excited for you. I mean, you like touring,
Thank you.
right? That's one of the things
I
that
do.
you
Yeah.
breathe and it's part of your life, you know?
I know. That's right. Yes. I mean, I still think, oh, will it go all right? Every night and that thing. And I always think it'd be lovely to go on and have absolutely no fear and know with absolute confidence that everything is going to work just peachy. But ask anyone who goes on stage, there's that palpable tension before it starts where everyone's thinking, is it all gonna work? And then when it does, and when there's a great reaction, a great performance, first of all, followed by a great reaction, that's what you've got to, you've got to meet that halfway. That's the thing. So I've had more and more fun. The more gigs have been, going off like a rocket, and great response to the live album, the Foxtrot at 50, has gone to number 2 in the British rock charts. I'm thrilled about that for
Wow.
this material which is it ain't no spring chicken. It's ostensibly vintage stuff, and there it is. If you thought this stuff shot its bolt back in the day, think again. No, it's great to be able to do it all over again and bring the dream back and all the rest.
Beautiful. Yeah, keep the dream alive because this music is
Yes,
timeless and
that's it.
it's different than anything else, you know, and progressive
Yes,
rock is something
yeah,
I feel like you can't figure out exactly.
yes,
You have to feel it, you have to be it, and
yeah,
to resurrect it and to keep it fresh and to have maybe
yes,
new younger listeners come up and
yes,
go, "What's this?"
yes.
You
Yeah, yeah,
know,
yeah, 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 yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
worth it. And
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah, the monuments of rock deserve to be preserved, I think, not cast in stone or aspic, but, just to be done again, performed with enough authenticity, but also the personality of those who are putting it across with conviction, but variation, not to be slavish, but just to know that you know those instruments are set on stun and off you go. And it amazes me every time what these guys bring to it. The guys on stage, I'm a fan of theirs every night. So that's what I do.
I love that. You have a wonderful band. You always have. Everybody you bring together is top notch, works really well musically and creatively. Who we got on the tour this time? Who are you excited to play with again?
Well, I have it's the same band. Those who might have called us a few years ago may be surprised that we have a new rhythm section with Craig Blundell on drums, Jonas Reingold on bass, both of whom are absolutely monumental and incendiary. That's wonderful. So I'm very proud of the team. And there's Roger King on keyboards. There's Rob Townsend on all sorts of instruments, woodwind and brass, etc. Nad Sylvan on vocals. So they are incredible. And also, I'm very proud of my wife Jo, who puts all this together and has lots of sleepless nights making sure that she keeps the ship on the rails. It's extraordinary what she does, and she's just sitting here and she's smiling back at me, and I'm going to blow her a kiss. Thank you. So
Oh, that's
nobody
cute.
works harder than Jojo, and that's really great. She just wants everyone to have a good time, and there are a lot of balls up or plates that are spinning up in the air, thousands of them that she's keeping in motion. So moto perpetuo should be her motto. There we are.
That's beautiful. How long have you
Rockio perpetuo. Thank
been
you.
together?
We've known each other since about 1989, 1990, and gradually we became closer and closer. And how long have we been together? For eternity, I think, in spirit. I think that's the way I see it.
I love it. You guys, one of my favorite things is to see the dynamic between a husband, wife, partners on the road, helping each other out. And it's a beautiful thing to be able to work with each other and and travel. It's got to be hard, but it's also got to be.
Oh yeah, it has its demands, physically and mentally. I think that to be able to keep up with the level of interest that there is, it's almost as if like the better you do, the harder you have to work to get back to everybody and give them what they know and love and deserve. But there's she is no shrinking violet in that way, and so there's no hint of retirement. We keep going till we go bang, and then
that's the way to go.
No vapor trails.
Yeah. I love that. And you speak of how you still get a little nervous, like you said earlier, that it's still a thing where you're like, is everything going to go right? Don't you agree that that's one of the things that is the fuel to all of this, is the excitement of
I think there are many people who you can quote who talk about stage nerves and butterflies in the stomach and getting them to fly in formation and all this sort of stuff. But I think that if you care about it, you're going to worry about it. That's the thing. You care about it, you want to do something really great, then there's no way you can be blasé about it, because that it all hangs by a thread. You choose a great team, you have all of that, everyone pays their dues, but that's only part of it. There's what life itself brings to it. So you could be playing away one night, any act. I've seen top acts, and suddenly the mic might go down, or the drummer breaks the snare, or the computers have just failed. And could you carry on, tell a story for the next couple of minutes while we reboot these? So we carry two computers now. So one system goes down, it's only about 30 seconds before the next one kicks in. So those moments of, can you do a little blues number before this? Less of that, but even so, you can't tell. It's human, and live is what it is. No matter how big the act.
Yeah,
it takes one lead to suddenly go into remission, and suddenly, why am I not making any sound? And there's 57 leads to go through on a pedal board to check what is the one that's gone down or been melted in the Italian sunshine.
Oh, gosh.
Because it was so hot when we were doing our Italian shows that suddenly pedals that I was using were melting. I'm melting. Where have you heard that?
Yeah.
And not just equipment, but personnel too, melting. And
wow. So you have to be ready for anything when you're touring. I mean,
that's right. But that's
the excitement of it is to kind of pivot and just go with the flow and be able to, hey, we're going to make this work.
I had this with Genesis back in the day, with the Mellotron kicking off the show with Water of the Skies. We're playing to 22,000 people in Rome, and still I was like, I'd be thinking, is the Mellotron going to play the first note, the first chord? Is it working, or is it going to, are the cogs going to grind into stop? And sometimes they did. And hey, sorry,
guys, we'll start over.
We'll start over. I mean, we use the digital equivalent and stuff that some of it doesn't actually go through the Mellotron through the playback heads, but is samples of the strings that they paid me with when I did some work for them before it goes in the mellotron. So we got the cleanest mellotron strings in the business, and mixed with the mellotron brass that is the intro for Water of the Skies, English accordion, which provides the bass part from the double manual Mark IIs that the Beatles used, and sometimes Roger will put a little bit of modern sample with this to make the mellotron look less and more So you get the power of one plus mixed with the other. I mean, I've recorded some of this stuff, Water of the Skies, with a mellotron and an orchestra playing side by side. The mellotron impersonating an orchestra, the orchestra impersonating a mellotron, and using the best of both together, which is a mighty sound. Yes, and the dancing girls in the wings, just in case that all fails. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Speaking of the mellotron, I mean, what an amazing instrument, and to be able to incorporate that into your entire career is so beautiful. I mean, you started wanting to do something like this when you were starting out. You wanted to be in a band with a mellotron, right?
That's right. Yeah, I'd seen two bands use mellotron live. Moody Blues, King Crimson, and I thought, at times the illusion, suspending your disbelief that you weren't watching and hearing an orchestra, that was so important. And then when Mellotron brought out the Mellotron voices, straight away I went with Tony to check out what that sounded like, and they did three things. You could have male voices, female voices, or the mixture of the two. So straight away we went for the mix of the two, and that's what you hear for the first time on Dancing with the Moonlit Night from Selling England by the Pound.
Yes.
The two, I think, classic Genesis albums that are side by side twins in a way, Foxtrot and Selling England by the Pound, are the two classic albums that I think from that time when John Lennon said he considered us to be true sons of the Beatles. He said that's the best compliment that Genesis were ever paid during any era by anybody. So praise from Caesar could not be bought and paid for. It had to be signed in blood.
I love that. I mean, that's what an honor, especially, what were you, 22 when this all started, 20 years old? Like, what a
yeah, back then, that's right. Yeah, we were young guys, and what you lose obviously is the spring chicken aspect, but on the other hand, and of course, and a new audience, but what becomes popular becomes classic over time, and so you gain that plus the chance to work with a team to work on something that might be ostensibly an abandoned place for fans of the band that might have felt a little disenfranchised by what was Genesis and what Genesis became. And and what's important is also those instrumental moments where perhaps one thing may have given way to another. So the band that brought you long form at one time had moved on to short form and closer to the MTV approved era of the band. And of course, I benefited from that as well. With GTR and Steve House, so that had its benefits. That was interesting, but I do believe in the power of the album as a visual entity in itself, and not something that's a song that is an appendage to the video, but or indeed albums that are constructed with potential hit singles, rather than something that's this very powerful entity called an album that has got the chance, at least if you take the view of the Beatles around about the time of Sgt. Pepper, something that's not just groundbreaking, but that brings the world together. the idea of the mainstreaming of everything from vaudeville to the influence of New Delhi. That's the power of music, is to bring the world together. So, you know, at times I've worked with people from Azerbaijan and Armenia working on the same album together during my time, and with Israeli and Palestinian working together. So it's got to be possible that if we can get everyone, if not singing the same tune, but putting in the same direction, perhaps we can, you know, this 1960s dream of banning all of this nonsense, that would be just great. Wouldn't it be wonderful, you know? And it seems like, you know, we haven't marched on really since medieval times. You know, they went at it with pickaxes and swords and cutlasses and daggers and knives in those days, and lances and all the rest. But, you know, suddenly we're back there again in a decoupling world. So what's wrong with this world? Yeah, the concept of creeds and cultures and countries putting up barriers. These are all archaic institutions. So let's not be held ransom to and by dogma and you know, I think it was lovely, you know, for a short while there in the 1960s, the idea of love your brother and all of that was a damn good idea. So thank you, John Lennon. You're absolutely right.
It's absolutely true. And I think it's repeating and it repeats, and we start to get a little farther and then we come back. But music is it's like a dagger itself, you know. A guitar can shred through this stuff and make you feel otherworldly and bring people together and say, look, we're singing the same tune. I'm the same as you, you're the same as me. Let's stop fighting, let's stop dividing, let's stop letting the people that are above us tell us what to do, and just live.
Exactly. You know? and that dagger pierces the heart. Nobody dies with a salvo from electric guitar. You can that Gatling gun that's possible from tapping to all the rest. That's all it does. Nobody dies. That's it. We often come off of a show where we think it may have been a little shaky for one reason, where we'll be saying to them, nobody died. That was that was great. Mostly people are reinvigorated and in some cases healed. That's the subtext of music, I think.
100%. I went and saw your buddy Peter last night. He was in town. And
right.
He did a song, Love Can Heal. And it was a beautiful piece where he was kind of painting. They had a big screen and he was kind of painting these hearts. Have you seen it? It was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing, but it was just like these messages that the people in the 60s were doing, that you guys were doing in the 70s and the 80s, that everybody's trying to do. These messages are the same. You start to hear it like, wait, that's what the Beatles were saying. That's what these guys are saying. We're still saying it, right?
I mean, all of that spirit of Woodstock. I got to work with the late great Richie Havens, amongst others, and wonderful working with him. A guy who not only got to work with me, but also with Peter Gabriel in later years. He was working on Story of Ovo along with Pete. So you had, you know, musicians ostensibly from the 60s, from the 70s, and but music is eternal. It's not dependent on how old we are or what we're wearing, whether we got hair or not. It's not about that. It's about so much more.
It really is. It is eternal. I mean, and you hear certain sounds, you know, just different instruments from around the world, and it resonates in your heart. Like you were saying, you know, like the dagger, it doesn't kill anybody, but it might wake us up or heal us or make us feel better. And that's why you keep doing it, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, something drives me to do that. But the shows just seem to get better and better, and I like to think the albums get better and better. I've just done a new one as well as Foxtrot at 50, which has gone into, if I didn't say so already, into the British charts and the British rock charts at number 2. The new one that I've just done, there's some incredible performances on that. from all sorts of people, including not just the band, but Amanda Lehman as well, sounding almost operatic on it. So there's the influence of all of that. I wonder if that will speak to the Italians, who are big fans of hers already. So that's interesting. So it means hopefully music without prejudice, so they can be girls too,
Right.
along with the boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's wonderful. I'm glad to hear that you're continuing to make music too. That's still a thing that drives you. There's songs that you want to create and new music and new collaborations too. You love collaborating, which I
Yes.
love about you.
I do, yes. It's been very interesting. There's a collaboration really with Foxtrot 50 that has, an Anglo-Swedish band and an Anglo-American connection, both with Nad, who is Anglo-American, he's English-American, Swedish-American, and Chris Lord-Alge, who's an American producer who's mixed that live show from Brighton. And it sounds better than ever with, this international committee, this United Nations that comes up with such extraordinary stuff. So I think this thing about celebrating the best wherever that is very important. Otherwise, we end up with what's merely local. So unfortunately, Britain, with its Brexit ideas, it's decimated so many of the British industries. And, I remember a time when, in terms of dollars, it was $2 to the pound. Now it's, I just changed some money at the airport and it was, I think I paid out more pounds than dollars.
Wow.
I think, well, just carry on your own sweet way. I'm no economist, but I have to say that in a decoupling world, and Britain, unfortunately, is in the forefront of this, we're going to run into a lot of problems. We need everyone's expertise to crack everything. We need the best doctors. We need the best everything. We need the best music. We need the best healers. We need ambassadors for peace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do.
If only the Russian kids would just go, yeah, we've had enough of this. The Vietnamese War was brought to a halt by American college kids who said, no, we're not going to fight this war anymore. It was the kids that brought it to an end. Okay. Yeah. Once they started shooting their own. Yeah. And so I know I'm not talking to Russians at this point, but I'll just, send out that thought that there's got to be something that comes from within. Crazy stuff going on at the moment. Breaks my heart.
I know. I feel the same. You can feel like this general unease that's happening that you wish it wasn't there, but it's happening all over. There's things, if it's not the climate or the way people are treating each other or just all sorts of things. And I guess not being a part of the 60s and hearing you guys talk about it and singing about it, how does it feel now? Like, does it feel like we've gotten anywhere, or does it feel like we just keep taking 3 steps forward and 2 steps back? Like,
yeah, it's too easy. Everyone burying their heads in the sand or their iPhones or whatever, and thinking that that's enough. No, it isn't enough.
No.
Yeah, it has to go further than that.
100%.
Yeah.
That's what makes me nervous. And you're right about, it was the American kids that spoke up about that. Will the kids these days be able to get off their cell phone and say, I don't care about Snapchat or what my friend down the street's wearing, and that's distracting me. There's so much distraction.
Yeah. That's right. And it can be a very selfish, self-seeking world. There's a lot wrong with it. But hey, we do our best. You know, music is an ambassador for peace. That's the subtext. That's it, and healing, all of that. Nice to see that Pete's out there doing it. I hope to catch one of his shows when I'm not working,
Yeah.
which is actually none of the time.
I was gonna say, you guys are probably in
but,
tandem on this. Yeah.
Yeah. So you get to see the new, and you get to see the classic, the vintage.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, speaking of Pete and speaking of the old band, what do you remember from the original Foxtrot tour? Like, maybe even just comment on the outfit, of course, that Peter was wearing. I was watching some of those old videos and showing my boyfriend, because he, you know, Pete is different last night than he was all those years. Like, what was it like playing for a guy who wanted to be so eccentric?
Well, I had the idea that, you know, a lot of the songs that Genesis did that we thought were wonderful within the band were leaving people cold live. People were just at colleges, they just wander off to the bar. And I knew we had to have a light show. We had to have a mellotron. After that, we had to be cutting edge. We had to have the synthesizer. We had to have everything that the modern world had to offer. And when the idea of Supper's Ready came up, I thought we could do something that's long form. Basically, the Beatles had done it on record. King Crimson were doing it live in development before they did In the Court of the Crimson King. You know, and so Genesis and Crimson were from the same sort of school of approach, where you got about 3 songs aside, and that was it. But then, so I said, yeah, we could do a long form thing, but we need to do it with all the bells and whistles. You have to have everything going for it. Then you can take people on that journey. We can retain the audience's attention. You've got to grab them at the beginning, but they've still got to be there at the end. And that's what Supper's Ready became. Pete decided, without consultation, that he was going to personify a lot of those songs. So if the band was presented in a certain way, he could, in silhouette at least, look like an alien with glowing bat wings and the day glow makeup and ultraviolet lights with the muslin curtain at the back. And so as a set piece, you had a tableau, and at times we had dry ice. And whenever there was a curtain, the curtain draws out, and you get those mellotron chords, and the dry ice clouds envelop the audience. There's something else. It's like, who are these guys? The aliens have landed. And we all sat down in those days. The rest of the band, and Pete was the show. He was that visual thing. So, and as I'm sure, you know, he's carried that, the spirit of that onwards. And so I think you've got different schools of thought coming together to create that perfect moment. People get very spoiled, I think, you know, with the idea of oh, well, I've seen it all. I've seen that, you know, spaceships coming in and lasers going off and all the rest. And of course, yes, and can we have the avatars, and can we have the all of this?
You've seen it all already, right?
Yeah. Why not? But I also think that to pair it back to seeing on film Andres Segovia in his 70s and his 80s performing on one classical guitar, and he's got no band there. It's his fingers, and knowing that magic is actually not dependent on externals. It's great music can be performed with very few props or no props. Lovely when the two come together. But if you close your eyes, that sweet music can produce wonderful colors. Andres Segovia talked about the different colors that the same phrase would have if you played it low down on the fretboard, and what string you played it on, all of it with different color. And the eloquence of the man, which was personified in his playing, and very little of it was current material. It's stuff from Bach, born in 1685.
Right.
It's extraordinary, you know, to think that Bach and Handel are born in the same year, 1685, and I believe Scarlatti too, 1685.
Wow.
Yeah, good year for rock and roll. Yeah,
Yeah.
those guys
Very
made
good year.
good year for keyboard players. Very good. Yes.
It is. What is it about progressive rock that likes to harken back to that medieval sound?
I think it's the exploration of harmony, and from a time when there was no tyranny of volume. They didn't have electronics. They didn't have that. You had to be able to play. You had to be able to write. You were in training for a very long time, and it was demanding work virtuosically. Handel was more of a showman, I think, you know, whereas Bach was church. And with Scarlatti, it's royal patronage there, Italian, Portuguese royal family, all of that. Yeah, all art needs its patrons, whether it be church or the paying public or royalty, all of that. So yes, we all have to pay homage to Mammon to a certain extent, but
Yeah.
I think it's harmony, and music was about the same things as it is now. It's about healing. It's about empathy. It's about all sorts of things. It's stories out of people's lives, whatever it's portraying. So character portraits, pretty much what the Beatles were doing in a, you know, few hundred years hence. Those character portraits as personified by Sergeant Pepper, of course, the thing that was started really with Eleanor Rigby on Revolver, continuation of that. So there's Eleanor Rigby, there's Mr. Kite, there's individuals out there. There's Rita, the meter maid, all of that.
All these different personifications that
Yeah,
you can to get your story across in a better, more
Yeah.
digestible way, or a way for us to kind of, oh, I know Mr. Kite, I know this, you know, like it
Yes.
gives it something to, yeah, that makes
Yes.
sense. That totally
songs
makes sense.
about shows. In fact, we know with Mr. Kite, it's a show about a song about a show. It's
Right. Oh,
being
that's true.
framed
And
very, very carefully, and then you have the, you know, the ignored, the neglect of Eleanor Rigby, an old lady at the end of her demented life, written by young guys who were in their 20s. Extraordinary stuff, downing their instruments perhaps for the first time and letting the old instruments, you almost smell the dust in the corner of the empty room. That's what's devastating emotionally about the song, and the quality of writing that creates a kind of fly on the wall documentary, as if you were there. Flashpoints in people's lives. Could be the end. It could be the girl who's leaving home for the first time. You know, an emotional flashpoint, just going right to that moment.
Yeah.
So they had the ability to hit the nail right on the head, and do those vignettes, those little sort of examples of human life at its most raw.
yeah, absolutely. That's a good explanation. And it's true. That's, you don't think about it, but that's what's happening. It's like you said, you're right there. You know, you want to bring the audience right to where that moment
Yeah.
is in time. And I think, you know, Genesis, your band, just progressive rock, just music in general is trying to do this, and some do it better than others, but to have that personification, whether it's visual, whether it's, you know, any way, any sense, it's a beautiful thing to embrace.
Yeah, I think it can do that. I'm thinking about, you know, a band that was an influence on Genesis as well, Procol Harum, who've used orchestra at least as wonderfully as the Beatles. And you've got A Salty Dog, you know, the idea of, in that lyric, the justification for all of the outrageous things that they would do, but it was the song of the sailor, all of that, and a kind of a clarion cry there, a justification, a kind of hymn in a way.
Yeah, it is. It's a religious experience being an audience member too, to go to something like this and feel like it's church. Like if I leave and I'm like, man, that felt like like I was at church, I felt like I
Yeah.
was, experiencing something out of my body. And it was with
Yeah.
other people, and
Yeah.
sometimes at church I'm awkward, I feel weird. I pick up the book and I'm like, I don't know if I belong here, but I know I belong at a rock concert. And I know that
Yeah.
I feel that connection like I've never felt with other people. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing to incorporate the audience, like you said, with the dry ice coming out or whatever you can do to kind of make us all one for those 3 hours or whatever is wonderful.
I guess, music is also memory. It's also the emotional calendar, who you were listening to, and who you were with when you were listening to that. So there'll be that musical milestones. Yeah, it's the air that we musicians breathe.
It's true. It's so beautiful to have, to have visual elements. Like I pulled this off the shelf, a little
Oh, right, okay.
the double nursery crime and Foxtrot that I think was like a promo. Yeah, this was a promo
Yes.
record, for our station. We started in
Yes.
74, so this was probably
Interesting.
pretty exciting.
Not. I noticed it says not for sale. Interesting.
Yep.
So you're getting the best of those 2 years, and of course, Foxtrot and Selling England, I think, are the most developed in terms of the experimental writing of the band. So I've toured Selling England in its entirety.
Yeah.
Foxtrot, which was never played in its entirety by Genesis during our time together, but all these years later, all I've got to do is to agree over lunch. Politically, it's much simpler, and have a band that enjoy doing it, and I've said to them, play it like you own it and make it your own.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's exactly true. And I mean, just a couple days ago was the 50th anniversary of Selling England by the Pound. It was, I think, end of September that it came out, 73. So happy, congrats, 50 years. That's amazing.
Yes, I know. It doesn't seem like 50 years.
No,
it seems more like 5, perhaps.
Yeah.
But there, well, that frightening passing of time is frightening. And but the important thing is to get as many songs under your belt as possible, as many albums done as possible, and as many shows and all the rest as much as it will take.
Yeah, and as many connections as you can make. I hear that you're very friendly with the fans, that you like to talk to fans, and you embrace them, and I think that's really wonderful.
Try my best. It's not always possible to be
of course,
everything to everybody all the time. You can't do that because of the pressures of this, that, and the other. So I'll have to prioritize.
100%, yeah. But the fact that you even do it, it just shows that you care about the music, you care about the experience. One of my favorite bands, which I didn't realize, Fish, kind of inducted you into the Hall of Fame in 2010.
Yes.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Trey Anastasio gave the speech, and they did Watcher of the Skies. Wow.
Yes.
I mean, how did you feel about that performance, and what did you think about that induction?
Yeah, very interesting. I found the whole experience of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was surprising, because most people are wearing sort of DJs and penguin suits. And
yes, I thought it was.
And you think, this is it really is strange to see the Rolling Stones in penguin suits and all that. But the night we were being inducted, ABBA were also there, or a contingent of them, and the Hollies, and so when it started out at the beginning, it was amazing that they played that, and they were talking about selling England by the pound and how important that was for them, and very complimentary about guitar techniques that I've been working on, and so that was rather extraordinary. And I think as the evening wore on, it became more and more emotional. And I could see that, Phil, who had not been well and is still not, he was up and he was clapping and he was moving. along with whatever it was, you know, whether it was Carole King or it was Eric Burden of the Animals doing something, or the Ronettes, Jimmy Cliff, and the celebration of not just artists who were living, but also writers who brought some of these songs to the fore. And some years later, of course, they celebrated the late, great Paul Butterfield and Mike Bloomfield with the Paul Butterfield Blues Band, all of that. And so it's a great thing. And yes, you know, we're not inducted during their time. I was working with Chris Squire at the time. He was desperate to come along that evening, and I said I could not get him a ticket. I tried my damnedest, and but they were inducted.
Yeah.
And I said so to the press. I said, if we're being inducted as the first progressive band to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, then it would be nice if Yes were as well, because I knew that, you know, Phil was a huge Yes fan, and
Cool.
hell, you know, over the years I got to work with so many guys from Yes, so there was a kind of coming together of the clans or the thinking. I'd work with Pete Banks, the original guitarist. I'd work with Steve Howe. I'd work with well, Jeff Downs, of course, is in the ranks now. With Chris Squire, you've got a band right there, you know. And so that was rather wonderful. So great that they were inducted eventually, if not on time. You know, not timely for Chris because he really invented. Yes, he owned the name. But great to work with him. Great to work with John Wetton.
Yeah.
Two late great pals. So yes, I think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a great institution, and I wish we had something like that in Britain. But yeah, better late than never, I would say, with all of that.
Oh yeah, Yes is one of my also favorite all-time bands. You guys both, Genesis and Yes, in my mind, make up such a, you know, plethora of music, and both of you guys are still playing, you know, in different forms and keeping this music alive.
Yes.
I know you played with Steve Howe. How did you guys in GTR? How did you guys decide who was lead and who was playing rhythm in that?
Well, we had to make space for each other, you know, stand aside while the other guy does something extraordinary. That was the idea. So I loved doing When the Heart Rules the Mind, which was basically our hit song, you know. And I re-recorded that in recent years with Steve Rothery of Marillion. He and I have been doing some stuff together, which I hope will be out at some point. So all of that was interesting. Now, my only problem is that at 12:20, I got another another Zoom coming up.
Cool.
So
no
but
worries.
it's been great.
It's been really great.
We could talk all day and night, I think.
I think we could. We could go off. Yeah,
we could keep it going.
Yes. Well, we'll see you here in Chicago. You're coming to the Copernicus Center on the 2nd of November. Yeah. So we'll see you there with bells on.
I look forward to being in Chicago. Absolutely. Yes.
We love you here. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you to Joe, too. You guys have a great day.
Okay, I will. I'll take her right now. There we go. She's waiting to you.
Thanks, Joe.
Right.
Thanks, Steve.
There we go. Oh, here she comes. Here she comes.
Yeah, come say goodbye. You're so nice to meet you guys.
Thank you, Meagan.
You're welcome. Have a great day and enjoy the tour.
All the best once again. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM, and you just heard from Steve Hackett and his beautiful wife Jo here on The Wizard, Chicago's home for freeform radio since 1974. And we are so excited to play some more music from Foxtrot at 50